Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Dugan, for availing yourself for us to share what the Lord has taught you with us. The Bible says, freely you have received, freely should you give. But I guess when it comes to marriage, it's not that free as we think. And because most of the time people go through experiences and they share the experiences with you, but it is said that the wise way to live is not to live people's experiences, but is to learn from their experiences. And I'm beginning to see that more and more in life. So I thank God for my wife. A year ago when we did it, she was not here, and so I think it's 4 of us now. So that is very good.
Your beautiful wife.
Yeah, my beautiful wife. Thank you for that correction. Thank you for that correction. It's a very important point, you know, because and she's getting more and more beautiful too. That's the other thing, right? Since we married,
I failed to comment.
So I think it's a good thing. So definitely, I thank God for that. So for those that are watching us, to my immediate left, we have Mr. Dugan. Next to him is Mrs. Dugan, and next to Mrs. Dugan is my sweetheart. So thank you for joining us, and then we're going to be make it as much as possible, as casual as possible, but to ensure that at the end of the day we're able to come up with what we need to. So we're talking about, I think, we're talking about marrying happily, and I think that we'll give you opportunity to make a comment here or there about the misnomer of happily married forever, the thing that we see in Hollywood, to make people understand that what you see in movie is movie. It's not real. And you got to be able to sort of work on that. But before we go on, I just wanted to share a little of my experience about what I've learned from my patients. I've got the beauty of most of my patients being elderly. I always say that cardiology, we see the ends of life. Essentially, the in-betweens don't see us that much. And I had a patient who was 41 years, and I said, cardiology, we start at 50, so you are not born here, you are -9, right? So, and he said, why are you telling me that? And he said, you didn't look at the reception? Most of them can give birth to you. He said, yes. I was asking myself, am I in the right place? So, so one thing that I have had the privilege of getting from my work, I'm talking about I don't believe there is secular work or no, because a Christian is a Christian. I believe that our callings may be different, but that is a principle that we have, is to see people at that age who have married for, because of those, some have married for 60 years, right? So I just wanted to share one of the experiences I had. I've got a young doctor working with me now. He's going to go into his residence. He's married about 6 months, so this
very new.
Very, very new. And then a couple came, right? The couple have been married, I think they're going for about 30 something years. So he said, Dr. Philip, I want to give you an advice. And I was like, ooh, I'm taking it, right? Because, so he said, Dr. Philip, when you marry, the first 15 years, everything your wife tells you should say yes.
Yes, dear.
Yes, dear. Everything your wife tells you, for the first 15 years, you should say yes, dear. After 15 years, if you don't agree with her, say, is that right? Never say no, but say, is that right? He said, around 15 years, if you say, is that right, you will think that you're having hearing loss. It's not because you disagree. And she'll try to get your hearing aid rather than then take you to the ENT doctor. And in that case, you're not going to have a problem in your marriage. So if she tells you something you don't agree, never say no. Just say, is that right? So having been married for 15 years, if your wife says something today you don't agree, You have the permission to say, is that right?
Right. I see.
and we'll totally get it.
You're fine.
So here is the case. We had a man who's 87 years. He came with his wife. Actually, he had a heart attack, right? And he came with his wife, and they were talking, and the wife said something, and the man said, "Is that right?" You should come and look at my eyes.
Oh, so you remember that?
Exactly. So I realized that what a guy said was true. First 15 years, yes, yeah. After 50 years, is that right? So I realized that what a guy said was so true. So now I think I've got something in my. But now you can use. Is that right?
I think
So,
it's a good advice.
Yes.
Now that we have passed 15 years,
Yeah.
is that right?
Is that right?
Yes, there's probationary period.
Brilliant.
Right, after that you graduate to, is that right? That's it. It's 15 years.
So that is the interesting aspect of it. So I guess we can segue into the topic now, and I think both of you can give us your comment about this topic about happily married, and I'm sure Naomi give us a question here or there. You can start us with that, but a sort of introduction, your idea about the concept of happily marrying or marrying happily. So any of you can go.
Yeah, I think I would just start with that, and then we will say that marrying happily, like you said, Hollywood always ends with, when it comes to relationship, they are always putting up the glamorous part of marriage, the nice and more romantic part of relationships, but they don't talk about the real stuff that actually happens. So people tend to think, happily ever after. Once I meet this guy who can sweep me out of my feet, we do everything, we have the wedding, and life is going to be nice and sweet. It's not like that. There are challenges. However, in spite of the challenges, you can work on your relationship and enjoy your marriage. So I'm sure that's why we're here, and that's the reason why we're here. We're going to dive deep into that. But you can have a happy marriage, but it requires a lot of work from both sides.
And just to add on to what he said, my acronym is WIP, which is work in progress for marriage. So it's something that it's ongoing, it's continuous. You're always pursuing it. You're always looking for ways to make sure that you're staying together, to make sure that you're bringing in that spice, to make sure that you're caring for your partner. It's not one time and done, even for some men, and we'll probably talk about this more tomorrow. Once you say I do, you feel like I told you I love you on the wedding day, and then we're done. For the woman, she needs to hear constantly every day that, yes, I love you. What I said, at the altar still counts. And the more you pursue, the more you let her know, the more that she's feeling secure in the relationship, and the more that you're getting more out of the relationship. So it's not like one time I'm done. It's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing, so something that you have to intentionally work on every single day of your life. Just like we go to work, we have to make sure we put that effort, and whatever that means in that particular relationship, is that what you're going to do. And we can talk about some of the things that you can do to kind of spice it up, making sure that you have that happy marriage.
Yes, that is, I think, is quite revealing, in that, just to take it a little bit from what you said, was that at the altar, it is the woman, for the men, they think that is sort of the end of it, and the woman. But in my experience, I'm beginning to realize that, and I think we can talk about it, that actually men need that reaffirmation that I love you more than women. I have had the privilege of talking to a lot of men, and that lack of that affirmation can be a huge source. And I don't know where the concept of the woman expecting it, but in my closer talk with men, and once again, part of it is coming from these wonderful patients of mine who are teaching me, and I am beginning to understand that it's, as you said, it goes both ways. Actually, that lack of affirmation is why most men don't enjoy their marriage, because it is felt that the man, if you bring the king in a man, you get the best of him. And bringing the king in a man is that affirmation. So I think we're going to talk about more about these things, and hopefully I think we can have we can go more into some of these things in terms of the house and other things. So I think before we go to, before I ask let me make sure beautiful wife. I added it this time, okay? Okay. And by the time we finish, I'm going to say gorgeous wife, okay? So let's put it in there. So I found a scripture today in Ephesians chapter 6. It's quite interesting how Ephesians chapter 6 ended. Is it Ephesians 6 or 5? But one of the scriptures in Ephesians, let me see whether I can go there. The book of Ephesians chapter 5, it ended with something quite interesting. It says, I want to read Ephesians chapter 5, verse 31, and then I think we can go on here as to why we need to learn. It says, for this reason a man should leave his father and mother and be united with his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Then he says, this is a profound mystery. And this statement was made in the context of marriage, which I have not paid attention to. But this mystery, this is a profound mystery, and I'm speaking about Christ and the church. So in the context of marriage, it looks like you can understand things better by looking at the relation between Christ and the church. Nevertheless, now you use the word nevertheless. Each one of you must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect the husband. So I think to lead to the question that we're going to start the discussion from here, I'm beginning to realize that, as we say, nobody seems to arrive in marriage. It's a mystery you have to chase. And it's quite interesting that he put this is a profound mystery between two issues about marriage. The first one is so that the man will leave his wife. Then he put a mystery there. And the mystery is coming through looking at Christ and the church. And then he ends with marriage again. So at least one of my prayers that I prayed today was, Lord, may you continue to show me this mystery. Because there's something we still always need to sort of discover in marriage. And I think that is why conferences like this and podcasts like this should never end. Because, at least from what the two of you are saying, we never seem to graduate from this school. So I'll leave it to now for her to ask us any question pertaining to.
Like I mentioned, like you said, we never seem to graduate. You did mention that it's a work in progress. And I heard this man of God saying that is the only thing that you get your certificate before
you actually
so meaning that you will never graduate. So everything seems to be new. You learn in marriage. So based on what we intend to do, it's like, why should we work on our relationship? Why should we work on our marriage? And we can start talking about how we work on our marriage. We talk about relationship, friends, family. How why should we work on?
So I will take it from here. We started by saying that men can, once, men are goal-oriented mostly, vision-oriented. So at some point in his life, I need to get a career. They work on it, get a career. Career is going. At some point, okay, now I need a wife. So once he gets that ready, that's his vision. So he puts in everything he needs to get a woman. Once he gets a woman, they're married, another goal achieved. So go to the next. Right. So in so doing, one goal has been achieved. Now what's the next goal that I need to achieve? And in so doing, you forget about your relationship and your wife. You're thinking that I have achieved my goal. And for that reason, it brings you to the fact that once you've achieved your goal, from the man of the perspective, you're not done. This is a relationship. This is not a goal that you have achieved. It's a relationship, and that relationship should be nurtured. Let me tell you a story of someone that was sharing his story. Now, he had gotten married, and then he had a business, and the business is going on very well. Very early in the morning, he was praying over his business seriously, and then the business is going well, and he knew he's involving God in the business is doing well. And then this very morning, he was busily praying, God, thank you for everything, family is going well, and business is going well, your blessing continue to be on the business. And the Holy Spirit tell him, the way you are enjoying your business, is that how you are enjoying your relationship with your wife? And he said that kicked his gut. So, and then he started evaluating and he thinks, oh, in my relationship with our wife, we're about 6, 7, so we should be doing good. Then it dawned on him, so why can't it be 10? Why can't it be 11? If it's out of 10, why can't it be 10? Or why even can't it be 11? Right. So then he started praying that God, show me what I should do to get this relationship with my wife. And at the same time, do you know what was happening? The wife was also having an issue. She feels that I'm at home taking care of the children. And here is my husband busy with his business. He's happy, always talking about the business and stuff. And I need him to be around at least to have a relationship with him, and those guys. I'm not having that. And so she's not happy, right? And that is a situation where the relationship is not being taken care of. The relationship is being neglected. The guy thinks everything is going on well. The woman is not happy in the marriage. And this is an example of why we need to work on our marriage. I know someone who also thought that the marriage was going on very, very well. He told me himself. And then it got to a point where one time he came back and the wife was gone. Here. Right? So it tells you that once you're married, that's not the end. You need to work on the relationship. Now, interestingly, you started with this verse 5:31, Ephesians 5:31. Jesus and the church. It's very surprising that throughout the Bible, God relates his relationship with the Israelites as like a man and a woman. And the one that is so profound for me, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and all those kind of things. But one of them, he used a prophet's life to demonstrate his relationship with, and that is Hosea. That, and I pour that prophet.
A prostitute.
Go marry a prostitute. And at that point, that is how God was seeing the Israelites. You know, so even God is working on his relationship with us. Right? So Jesus, looking at Jesus, he's working on his relationship with us, always finding a way of drawing us closer to him, drawing the church closer to him. And if he is doing that, why not we?
Yes.
His relationship with us, he's working on it. So why not we as married couples also not work on our relationship, get closer, get to the intimacy we want in our relationship?
And just to add on to what he said, I was going to talk about, I wrote Christ plus man. So I was going to relate that, but I think he mentioned it. But simply put, anything that you have that you don't nurture, it dies.
Right.
Basically, it's just
Yes.
that simple. So if you want that thing to be alive, you have to nurture it. If you plant something and you want it to grow, you have to make sure you water
Yes.
it. You take, if it's too cold, you bring it inside. If it's dying, you prune it. So you need to do, if you want that thing to survive, you work on it, and we can bring that into our relationship. If you want the relationship to be alive and thriving and doing well, you have to put in the work by doing whatever you need to do to make sure that that thing don't die. And if we don't do it, if we don't take those steps, then that's when the relationship begins to die. So we need to do the work.
So it's you know, and the point is, you see, this is where Christian talks are important. You know, this is what I was actually sharing with somebody, and I've not spoken with you, and that is what I was sharing with. Is immediately you said I'm shocked, and that's what I was saying. That our relationship is a living relationship. So if you don't feed it, it will die. And that is, I believe that is a message that God is carrying across, this morning to everybody, that you have to feed it, right? And I've realized that in all relationships, people look at how they are being fed rather than they feeding it. But Jesus used the analogy that the Father is the husbandman, he is the vine, and we are the fruits.
We are the branches.
We are the branches, and we bear the fruit.
We bear the fruit, yeah.
So if God is going to come to your home to show love, he's coming through you. It doesn't go the other way. So I think these things should sort of make us understand that if you want a good marriage, the question you need to ask yourself, what am I doing? Rather than the question is, what is she doing? And I have my own experience, because you talked about business, profession, and other. I had the privilege to go to school for law. I tell people, I went to school for almost twice Michael's age, right? That's how long, right? I went to school, right? I met a guy in an elevator, and he was talking about, I said, how old are you? And he said, 27. I said, 27? I've gone to school more than you 8. Since you were born to this time.
And you're still going.
Exactly. So 8 was at the end of my interventional year. And he couldn't, he said, is that true? I said, yeah, that is true. So I realized it changed him. So I think that is the thing that we all need to take home as is God is looking at you. Rather what you are doing in the relationship rather than I think others. And then I think I'll leave it to now to sort of talk about other things, because we want to bring in the issue about, I've learned as I'm studying love, I don't know why the Lord made me study love. I'm beginning to see 3 things in love. So you get Peter talk about love, because it is believed that Peter was the only married guy when Jesus was alive. So the book of Peter, 1st and 2nd Peter, is the concept of love from a married man. Add onto your basic faith goodness, the knowledge, from knowledge, self-control, long there. Then mutual affection, right? And then you don't see Paul, the guy who was made Enoch by God, talking about love in what? in First Corinthians, right? Then you come to John, the disciple of John, who wrote the book of John, where the chapter 3 and chapter 4, he is a heavy emphasis on love. And you see his love from the context of his relationship with Christ. And I'm beginning to see how they, based on their background, projected love. Because if you look at it, Paul never talked about mutual affection. But the married man talked about mutual affection.
Yep.
And all of them come in with a different perspective, but they all sort of fuse, if you look at them, to give the same narrative with slight differences for each other. And I think today we'd like to also look at Christ in that concept in terms of the example that he gave. But I'll give it to now to ask the any follow-up question, because we want to sort of follow it up from there.
Yeah.
And probably before we go there, let's I just wanted to, we talked about, a lot of people talk about the Good Samaritan, right? And a lot of people talk about Good Samaritan outside the context of love. But actually the Good Samaritan story, it was Jesus giving his 1 Corinthians 13 aspect of love. Because here is a case that the Bible says an expert of the law. Other people say a religious. You can be religious without necessarily practicing love. I'm beginning to realize that because of what happened in this issue. In that, he came to ask Jesus, and it's in, we can go to Luke. I think we can look at the scripture. Luke chapter 10, verse 29. The Bible says, if we can go to Luke, we can see the scripture over there. And I think that may help us be able to have this discussion. He said a guy came to Jesus and he wanted to test Jesus. He says, on one occasion, I just want to read it. He said, on one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is written in the law? And how do I read it? He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself. You have answered correctly, Jesus said. Do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked, who is my neighbor? In reply to this, so this is how we got the word. This is how we got the story of the Good Samaritan. Jesus telling us, how do you love your neighbor? And in any way, he went on to talk about a man was going from Jerusalem to Jericho, where he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes and beat him and went away, leaving him half naked. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw this man, he passed by the other side. So a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where this man was, and he took him, and he took pity on him. He went on and bandaged his wound, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey and brought him to an inn and took care of him. The next day, he took 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, and when I return, I'll reimburse you for any extra expense you have. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Other versions said, the one who had mercy and kindness on him. Jesus said, go do likewise. Somebody said the fact that Jesus told the religious leader to go do likewise shows that he wasn't doing it.
So just a comment and then you will ask your question. So the ending part, there's research that has been going on for some years now about couples who are happily married. And one of the key factors for them being happy in their marriage is they make the effort to be kind to each other. And that is, and they want to know why and what is making the marriages successful, and they are happy in their marriage. Not that they are just in the marriage and it's going, but they are happy in their marriage, you know. And one of the key points here is that they make the effort to be kind.
Yes.
You know.
I think that really leads into, or possibly answered part of the question that I wanted to ask. But while we were talking about being married happily, we talked about spicing your marriage. We're using things like, I mean, it's a relationship. You did mention like nourishing your marriage, keeping it alive. What are some of the things that keep marriage alive? Like you have given an example as kindness. I know when we did the ladder of love, we had the various steps, but maybe we can have some practical or some ways to understand how to keep these, because most of the time we throw in words and we don't really delve into what exactly it is. So maybe we could share what some of the spices and what really makes.
Let me start and then you can fill it in. Remember that we're each different. So the way that I feel love is different from the way that he'll feel love, the way that you feel
Right.
love. So the first thing you need to know is to get to know your spouse. Get to know your spouse, and that's where we talked about communication last year and then even yesterday. Get to know your spouse, get to know their likes and dislikes, because what might feel love to me or what might feel like I'm spicing it up may not be spicing it up for you. And I think I gave that example last year about his birthday and what he wanted versus what I was doing. So once I get to know...
Can you go over that a little bit?
Okay, so for those of you who weren't here last year, we talked about his birthday. On his birthday, I went all out shopping, looking for something that I think he would like. And, you know, I even worked with the kids. Let's come out, let's surprise Dad. And I gave it to him. And it felt like he didn't appreciate what I gave to him. And for me, I thought I did the best. And why am I getting this response from you after going through all of this? And come to find out, that was not what he was looking for. All he needed was for me to say, hey, I appreciate you. I love you for all that you do for us, for all that you do for the children.
Comes
We
as
really
sin.
love affirmation. That's all he needed. Meanwhile, I've spent over a few $100s wasting money. So once I got to find that out, you know, this is how I spice it up. So for me, I can come in and pat his back and give him a kiss and say, hey, honey, I love you. Thank you. I appreciate what you're doing for us. I know it's a lot of work sometimes for you to go to work and come back, but I just want to know genuinely that we care. We appreciate everything that you're doing. So depending on what your spouse wants, that's what you want to do. I like going out. So if he comes and say, hey, you know, you want to go out for dinner, whatever, that's how I feel love. So whatever it takes for you to be able to understand your spouse and then reciprocate that, that would be one of the ways that you can add spice. Another thing that we do is we try, and we haven't been successful, especially since COVID. Like we get away, just the two of us, at least once a quarter. Just the two of us, we go away, we reassess the marriage, we reassess our plans, we reassess the children, anything. So that also keeps the bonding alive. You know, so some of those things, practical things that we basically do that helps us spice up the marriage. So I don't know if you have anything that you want to add to.
Yeah, so we're talking about love again, and then let me also bring this in that, you know, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. He showed his love for us. So sometimes you know your spouse's weaknesses, and practically, almost all the time, that's what you're fixated upon. This thing that you don't like about your spouse. And that will never help you spice out the marriage. Right? So you look at what, and if you take your time to look at your spouse, there's a lot of good things you can think about and appreciate, you know. And so practically, looking at the positive things they are doing and then commenting on those things, encouraging them to do those, helps the person to be appreciated. whether man, woman,
Man.
everyone appreciates when you talk about something good they are doing. But if you are always talking about what they are doing wrong, it doesn't help. And it doesn't matter whether it's even mommy and daddy, but even the kids. If you catch them doing something good and you comment on that, genuinely comment, they know you are genuinely commenting. Guess what? Next time they are going to make sure they do something good that you're going to comment on. And it cuts across everywhere. So that is what most people are not able to overcome. And looking at the positives and using that to comment on their spouses. Or even because of the wrongs they are doing, they don't even feel like saying I love you or feel like complimenting the spouse. But that becomes a stumbling block. It becomes a wall between the two of you. So fixing our eyes on the negatives on the spouse instead of the positives does not help. I talked about the research.
Yes.
And that's also one of the things they talked about. Even if you offend me, you offend him, he is thinking positive. Oh, even though she said this word and it hurts me, I'm sure she didn't think about it. She didn't mean it. So once he takes that positive attitude, it doesn't hurt that much to him. But the moment he thinks about how dare she tell me this, even she does this one, she does this wrong, she doesn't, guess what? He's getting hurt the more. And that is, making the distance between, emotional distance between you further and further and pushing you away. And that is how it is. While we were still sinners, he still pursued us. And that is what marriage is about.
Yes.
While our spouse's weaknesses are still there, they are glaring, we can see, still pursue them. Guess what? Loving your spouse that way helps them change those even weaknesses that you see.
And I think the other thing, what you said, is like thinking the best intention of your spouse, right? The best intention. Yeah, he may have done something that really, really hurts, but at the back of your mind, if I think, well, this person loves me, he really cares for me, he wants my best interest. If you think that thought, the thing that he made to hurt, even though it still hurts, it does hurt, but you take a look at it and you go, if he had thought it would hurt me this much, he probably wouldn't have said it. You have to make that conscious effort to have that good intention of your spouse. If I have that good intention, like he said, it may hurt, but then it's less hurtful than when you think, oh yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew this was going to hurt me. He knew this was going to make me upset, but yet he said it. And I think that was a study, maybe we can discuss it tomorrow, about these things. Depending on the intention of the act, the pain level registered differently. Even though the pain was exactly the same, the level of how it felt to the individual was different based on the intention of how the examples was done. And I think we'll probably talk about it differently. But to think the best intention of your spouse, he had my best interest at heart. If you have that in mind, it changes a whole lot of things. And that's one of the things that they found about, happily married couple. They have the best intention.
So we will share more about it, about conflict resolution and stuff. I think it's tonight, not tomorrow. So we will talk more about that. But let me also say that, you have to make the effort to know your spouse. She mentioned it earlier. Know what they want, what takes them, what they are passionate about, and you get involved. Right. So now, on my birthday, she knows not to spend hundreds of dollars on food, cake, and all those kind of things. But guess what? That is rather her love language she's displaying. Right? And so we should make the effort to know what our spouses, what takes our spouses' passion. You know, what makes them happy, what makes them feel loved and appreciated. And the only way you can do that is ask questions, like we were talking about yesterday. Talk, ask questions. You know, sometimes they don't even know, and this is about love language. They don't even know that that was their love language, but that is what they are exhibiting. And so, if you realize that they are always buying you gifts, it means maybe that is their love language.
Yes.
So you try it and see the response. Then you will know. Because as human as we are, we sometimes our feelings change and we are growing, our desires change and everything. So that is also even the reason why we need to keep studying each other. And so your likes at age 30, it's going to be different from your likes at age 50. And so at that time, since you're talking, you're asking questions, and you're studying each other, you get to learn and you get to feed those desires, those passions, by doing things that will cause those to come up.
I think that it's quite interesting that, you know, a lot of the research and other things, it's all in the Bible. But it's all in the Bible.
Exactly.
And the world is trying to look for them, right?
Exactly.
And this is, you said something that is very important. I think these points is knowing your partner. And let me say this. I mean, having had the situation of marrying again, I realized that people can be very different. Now is very quiet. Right? So I'm always studying her. That is my mystery now. This is a profound mystery.
That is a puzzle you're
That is
trying
my
to put
Uber
together.
history now, right? When I say profound, it's profound, right? It's like, okay, so I'm learning. I'm beginning to what I will interpret as, okay, sad, not sad. I'm beginning to realize it's not so. So I think the point that I want to re-emphasize is you have to learn and know the person. It's a journey of knowing the person. And I must be honest with you, I'm studying her more and more. I don't know her. I don't think I know her completely, and I don't think I will ever know her completely.
That's right.
But every day, I try to sort of tie the knots and see, and because she's radically different from my first marriage. What is her quiet place and other things? What makes her happy? I'm sort of discovering it, and I'm beginning to realize that I need to know that so that I respond appropriately to her. And just to say this, because I think it's a good place for me to talk about this, I'm beginning to realize that, as you said, if the person buys you a gift, that is her love language. That is the person's love language. You can look at them and begin to see where their love language is. And it's very important, right? This is what made me, I was talking about the concept that you're saying that the men at the altar think it is done, right? But I am beginning to realize that it is actually the opposite. The biggest reason why a lot of men leave their marriage is they don't feel appreciated.
Yes.
If a woman does not go out to purposely make the man feel appreciated, there's a huge problem. And that is why the scripture that we read, I was meditating on the scripture that I told you that I went Celestia, I saw Peter and John. What's I was doing, right? And Bartholomew, all of them. I said, why are these people all coming this morning, right? So, interestingly, in my meditation, I saw the word respect. And the Lord was asking me, why is it that He said women should respect their what? Their men.
Yes.
And he said men should love their wives.
Yes.
And then he made me understand, okay, that it's a concept of bringing the kinship out of the man. I'm talking about the man's perspective. That the gifts may be important than others, but not really much. Actually, for me, big gifts are not really, it doesn't impress me. It's small gifts. The little things I use every day in my work. That is it. And I think the woman can also speak for the woman's side. But today I've got the understanding that one of the critical things a woman can always look at is to look at the king in a man. And they use the story of David and Abigail. David was on his way to kill somebody. And I believe if David had done that, they would have never been a king.
It would have been a stain
On him,
his,
yes. And Abigail met him, and Abigail brought out the king in David. He was going as a quote-unquote a stupid man. But instead of Abigail stopping him, he pulled the king out of him. And then all of a sudden, David calmed down. So, I think it's one of the missing links in marriages. To reaffirm to the man that we appreciate you.
Yeah.
I'm telling the story because of a story I heard of a man who hardly ever hears her wife say, I love you. But the funny thing is that that one was their wife's love language. Not as the wife is more about touching and the stuff like that. But it's not worse.
Yeah.
So after some time, the first time the man said, I love you, the guy wanted to record it. So, so you know what he did? Interestingly, he wrote it down and kept it with him.
Yeah.
So from time to time, he will look at it, I love you, and he put his wife's name under it to reinforce that thing in them. So I think if we miss that first step, and that is the experience that I'm going through, that people are different, and you need time, but there are broad sways for men. Men is bring the king out of them. If you can bring the thing out of them, you can get them to do more.
Yeah.
And then the less you do, the less for them. I think you can speak to women, and then we can talk about the second point in terms of kindness, not keeping wrong, based on the Samaritan story.
Let me just do a quick one on what you said. When we first started and then you brought up the idea, I wrote, and then you said something about men needs to show love too. I wrote that men needs to love, but the difference is that love is different for a man than it is for a woman. And the word that I wrote, and I think you mentioned it rightfully, I wrote respect, I wrote appreciation, and I wrote affirmation. So that's, when we say love for a man, those are the things that we mean. You know, so it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, give me the gift or whatever, but like you said, to bring out the king in him, that means I respect you. That means I appreciate you. That means I'm affirming you. So it just goes on to just say what you have said. And that is very important to notice.
Let me give an example. There's this friend who he's been, you know, working his butt off to take care of the family. Then one time, it was in the night, and then the wife called him and said, honey, please come home. And then he said, oh, but I'm working. He said, yeah, I know you're working hard, but please come home. And then she came. When he came back home, she had rented a hotel and then told the kids to take one of them was a teenager, so the teenager was taken care of. He said, Mommy, Daddy and I are going somewhere. So he came, and then they went to the hotel, and the man was, what's happening here? So they got to the hotel room. She's gone to prepare the place and everything. And then once they entered the hotel room, she said, you have been working hard. And I have never met a man who works so hard for their family. And So because of that, I want to spend this night with you here, only the two of you. Guess what? The man broke down. Oh, so she realizes all the hard work I'm doing. And they spend the night together. And of course, the thing that we don't want to talk about, she also makes sure she gave him something he also loves, sex. Now from that day on, the hard work he was doing earlier was even nothing. Now I have someone who appreciates what I'm doing and who loves me. Why not? Another story. There's this fellowship for women, and then they talk about stuff, and then this woman said, "Oh, I'm leaving. My husband's birthday is today, so we're going for." And then the Bible study leader said, "Oh, make sure you get some lingerie." And then she smiled and said, "Lingerie?" And then the Bible said, "Yes, make sure you do that too."
And this is the man that's not a Christian. The husband.
The man is not a Christian. The woman is a Christian. And then she went home. She took the woman and the husband. They went for dinner and everything. And then she added that too. And after that, everything, the next day she said, my husband asked me, "Oh, so who gave you this idea?" And she said, "Oh, I learned it from Bible study." The next week, he asked him, "So does the man also meet?" And he said, "Yeah, the men also meet." What the time? She gave him the next week when the men were meeting.
He was there.
The husband was there with. She has spoken indirectly to the man. Now they are in ministry as we talk.
The man became a Christian as a result of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is what Paul says, that even by your actions, you can win your man. Here they spoke, these two women spoke to the core needs of the man. It's a core need. And so it is, when we're talking about some of these things, you go your long way to do that. Every man, when you meet those kind of needs, will go all the way for you.
Yes.
Anything you want, they will do.
Yeah.
Anything you want. As long as it's in their power, they will go all the way. To do it. And I believe it's the same thing also for the women, right? Meeting those kind of things. And so practically, these are some of the things, And so if a man is being fed well, they will not eat any other food.
No.
Right? And so these are some of the practical things that we believe that can happen.
Excellent. And just to go back here and to go back to the sort of the Samaritan story, you see, the scripture word in Ephesians, if we can sort of put a little bit of light on that, because we talked about affirmation, right? For men, respect, affirmation for them. The criteria for a man loving a woman is different from the criteria for women. That's what I saw today.
Yep.
So why that of the man is that respect and affirmation, right? That of the woman, he said the man should love the woman as Christ loved.
the church.
So it looks like, even as I believe that the criteria may be similar, the criteria may be a little different in terms of that. And I believe part of it is what you see in the book of the story of the Samaritan. In that, we're talking about, first of all, the guy was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. He was moving in the wrong direction in life. Jericho is a cursed city. Jerusalem is a blessed city.
Yep.
That is spiritual understanding, Lord, don't make me understand. So he was moving in the wrong direction, right? And then, though he was moving in the wrong direction, he had a problem. So if you decide to do the wrong thing and you get whipped, the first thing most of us will say,
He deserves it.
you deserve it.
Yep.
You deserve it, right? But it went on to say, because I'm beginning to realize that nobody knows your weakness than your partner. They know your physical weakness. My wife knows I don't have six pack now. I'm working on that. Because she's seen me. Yeah, I don't have six pack. I'm working on that, right? It's now full 1 pack, right?
She's looking somewhere else.
I said, yes, it's true, right? Yeah, it's like a balloon cut into half. Right there. So that is what it is, right? Yeah. So you deserve it. That should have been the normal response because he was moving the wrong way. He got himself into, and that's why these things even applies to other areas of our lives, right? He was moving the wrong way. He got whipped. It's like that sometimes happens to our kids. They did the wrong thing. They got whipped, right? And then we're talking about when that happened to him, the priest came along. The Levite came along, right? But you talked about something here that is really profound. The priest said, I have to go and do my priestly work. The Levite said, I have to go. And then the Samaritan came. And the Samaritan stopped, which shows that when it comes, Christ was talking about prioritization. The reason why we should have time for our people is not because you don't have nothing to do, but that person comes first. I've got a whole lot of things. So why are people saying that issue? It isn't because the guy said, the guy had a meeting to attend. He has somewhere to go because when he took him to the inn, he said, I am going and I'll come back. That means that he had business. So what the Lord is beginning to teach me here is, I have a whole lot of things to do, but family business is number one. It should be able to stop me in my tracks and be able to make me stop. No matter the duties of the day, if I get a call, that comes first. And I think we talking about you deserve it. So sometimes when you talked about seeing our weaknesses, right? When you see your partner's weakness, you can say he was doing wrong. And if he's doing wrong and he gets it, it's your issue. But you touch on a point that I wanted to lay emphasis on. Is the guy was doing the wrong thing. He got what he deserved. But when the Samaritan got there, because you brought the issue about notion, a mindset, that if you think already good about the person, no matter what they say, it's a different ballgame. And you see, the Bible used a Samaritan. There's a reason. And the Bible used a Levite. The Samaritans were looked down on. The Samaritans were considered unclean by Jews of that time. Remember? So that's why the woman said that. She told Jesus, why are you asking me for water? Since Jews do not associate with what? With Samaritans. But here you have a Samaritan going there. He knows it was a Jew that was there. But you talked about the fact that love is not to pay attention to the wrong you've suffered. He saw, and the Lord is making me understand that it doesn't mean you are forgetting the wrong. It doesn't mean you are not seeing the wrong. It doesn't mean you are not feeling the wrong. You can see, you can feel them, but you choose not to pay attention to them. So he knew the guy was a Jew, and he knew he was a Samaritan. So if you look at the story of the woman who was not converted, he said, Jesus, it's not happening here. No kindness business between the two sides. But in the story of love, what you perceive here is that he chose not to dwell on what a Jew may have treated him. but rather to extend that love to him. And I think that this story supports the idea that the key issue about walking in love is not to dwell. The key element is not to dwell on the wrong that has been done by the other people. I'm saying that because I believe it goes more in line with the man. We've talked about the man must be respected. But here Jesus is beginning to give us the way that Christ loved us. And you started by saying, the guy deserves it. He was moving from Jerusalem to what? To Jericho. And if he's beaten up, the answer should be, I told you so, right? Yeah, right? But here, whilst we're yet sinners, Christ died for us. And I think that's what I was talking about. That what is the criteria? Because that's how he wants men to love our women.
Yep.
I hope I'm being clear about that
I
point.
just want to add one quickly, this just kind of struck me. He said, I'm reading for verse 34. He said, then he put the man on his donkey, brought him to the inn, and took care of him. The next day, he gave 2 denarii. So the love was even to the fact that the man might have actually stayed with
Yes.
until the next day.
Yes.
And that's deep for
Yes.
somebody who's like totally,
Don't know him from
you
anywhere,
don't
yeah.
know me from Adam, and we are not even like from the same tribe. I'm going to Jericho, you're going to Jerusalem. We're totally different. But then it's just the love that is there, that he didn't care who this person was, he didn't care what he has done, he didn't care how he got there. The fact that he was there, and I have to make sure that I showed him love, just like Christ showed us love. And it just struck me just right now. The next day, so he stayed with him.
Yes.
And that's the extent that we have
Yes.
to go when
Well,
we show love.
Yeah. So in all these things, while trying to do, rather look at the positives and act on them, we're also not condoning the fact that if you're in an abusive marriage, then do that, right? That's not what we are proposing here. But the fact is, anytime someone receives something genuine, there's something in us that kicks the good in us to respond. So someone treats you bad, you treat them well. Jesus's concepts have always been the opposite of rational thinking.
Right.
Every time. Every time. So you try this and see in your marriage. Change the paradigm of your thinking about your spouse. Right? It says be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Take the positive aspect of what your husband or your wife is doing and comment on that. Use that to genuinely, comment, what's the word I'm looking for? Affirm them, right? You would see a change in the person. There's this story I was listening. This is one lady that she was giving her testimony about. They were always fighting. But she realized that her 5-year-old daughter knew how to handle the husband better than she did. Because the moment the husband comes from work, he enters the door, guess who meets her first? The 5-year-old daughter. Hey, daddy, daddy, and then he would go down and hug her, and then he would go and sit in the chair. Daddy, can I help you take off your shoes? And then she would take it off. Of course, it's her daughter, and then help me, and then even though both of them are taking it off, she thinks she's helping the dad. And then something struck her. No, I'm not going to let this little girl take the heart of my husband. I'm going to do the same. She started from there. And she said, when I started that, she thought I was, my husband thought I was crazy. After a few weeks, guess what? Oh, what do you want me to do for you? Right? So, once you see something positive you can do, here's a man who is always working hard. He comes home every day. I'm taking care of the kids at home. At least what I can do, meet him at the door, give him a hug, a peck on the cheek. Appreciate that, oh, you've gone for a hard day's work and you come home. We appreciate you that. Take off the shoe. She said, as for the shoe, he was so skeptical. What? You haven't done this for me? But you know what she was saying? The 5-year-old daughter would say, Daddy, can you do this for me? And this man would stop whatever he's doing and go and grab it for the daughter.
Yes.
And then if she would ask the same thing, he wouldn't do it.
No.
And what is going on here? What is going on in the heart of my husband that this little girl has her wrapped up, and she said, I'm going to do the same thing that she's doing. And that's what she was doing.
And she got the same results.
And she got the same results.
Yep. Yep.
Right. So those little things, and usually we're always thinking about big things.
Yes.
It's those little things that we are not doing. That I know one of the things she loves is going out for a dinner somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's not a dinner, but some ice cream and you sit and you talk.
I love that too.
You love that too?
Yeah.
Now you know.
You're not going to look at you, right?
If you didn't know that, you can write it down.
Oh.
I know she loves that too.
And I realized that anytime we go for dinner, she's so excited the way she'll be eating the food, and then we'll be talking and those kind of things. That we will have nice conversations.
Yes.
Right. So those are the things, and I'm telling myself, why don't I do this more?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that is a simple thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she's not looking for anything big.
Mm-hmm.
Just get out of home, no cook today, you just eat some dinner somewhere, that's all.
So I think that is okay, my dear.
Because I mean we've talked a lot of like using positive to communicate, but in situations where we always talk about the fact that love does not keep record of wrongs.
Yes.
This is something that I have to correct. We have to fix it.
Yes.
How do we communicate then?
When you're asking, I'm thinking about an example. I'm not getting any example yet, but yes, there could be situations where one has to change about an attitude so that things will not go wrong in the family. Those ones are there. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be good to them. However, those issues should also be talked about. And it should be talked about in love. And it should be approached in a way that I want to come alongside you so that we both will tackle this issue. If we need help somewhere, and we have to go for help somewhere, we have to do that. Because this thing is killing us. It's not helping the family. Right? So, but at the same time, what other things can you do for the person to know that you do care about me? Not only because you want me to change.
Yes.
Then before you also be good to me. Right? But when you are good to the person in other ways, yet bringing up this issue, I think we need to deal with this issue. And you know that this will cost us money, or this will cost us some lives or something. Then there will be a reception. But when it comes to the point where that is the only conversation, that is the only conversation. That is the only conversation.
The other person
The other
shuts down.
person shuts
And
down.
it comes out in a very angry
Yes.
Comes out in a very
Very.
angry way.
Yeah.
And those kind. And remember, Jesus doesn't treat us that way.
Yes.
He knows our weaknesses.
And
Still,
she doesn't pounce on
he
that.
pursues us. He still pursues us. He knows those things are wrong. But still, he pursues us. He wants that close relationship. And it is that close relationship that brings the desire for transformation.
Right.
And just to add to the point, you see, in terms of this issue, we always say this: use your love communications, right? Know the person's love language.
Yeah.
And you lose the love communication. So, for example, we talked about she loves dinner, right? If you want to bring up the issue or something like that, this is something that every book you read, they will tell you that.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you do it outside the love communication, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yep.
So it goes back to the point that we said, know the person,
Yep.
know their love language, and then run it through
Love language.
the love language. They will hear it better, they will understand it better. But if it does, and something I'm learning actually, but the more I'm reading these things, you see it through that, and then you're going to learn it. Once again, let's talk about the parable of the sower. I mean, the Good Samaritan here. You see two things happening, and I think this is it pertains to our children, raising them and other things, right? I'm learning, to be honest with you, because one of my first tendencies when my kids are not doing right is to criticize. But I'm beginning to learn that that's not what I should do. I should be quick to show mercy and hesitant to criticize. I'm dealing with that big time. And not only that, even my staff and people that are around me, I should be quick to have mercy. And I picked it from what you were saying. That is a mindset. Quick to have mercy, less what? Hesitant to criticize. And in that way, it's going to bring them out. But you could see something here that the Bible said the Levite came, the priest came. One of the challenges that we have is the Samaritan could have said, it's not my responsibility. That thing of it's not my responsibility. Love owns the problem.
Love
That is the
owns.
yes. Love owns the problem. You know, in our local language they call it a sikan. Means it's your responsibility. The reason, sometimes one of the biggest reasons why there are difficulties in marriage is that's not my responsibility. I'm a Samaritan. It's the priest's responsibility. It is the Levite responsibility. But it's not my responsibility. So, Daddy say, if you don't own the problem, you can't fix the problem. So the guy owned the problem. When you begin to own it, it will open the avenues. And owning it, it doesn't mean that you are blaming yourself or you put a blame on yourself. But you realize that the answer will come from you. But then you need to use the love channels that are things. And that is why I believe that the parable of the sower, the story of the Good Samaritan shows us these channels of you being determined, and you talked about all these things, that, okay, I get it. This is a problem. How do I help the person deal with it? You know, they talked about the second thing, that he took the guy to an inn. They said, love moves the person to a sheltered place. An inn, he was robbed in an open country, but he put him in what? An inn. So you shelter. And once again, all people will change when they see, number one, you care. Number two, you are ready to protect, not to harm.
And they should see it in action.
Action,
Not only in
not in
words.
words. So I think that is the scripture that we have in the Bible. It said this is love, not only in words, but in action. And once the actions, I believe they are there, then the response will be automatic. As you give the story here about the child did it, it worked.
Yep.
And I'm going to say something that when I read this story 2 weeks ago, I came across a book. They said, "Why is the dog man's best friend?" There are people who can't sustain relationship. They don't even have one friend, but they have a dog. And they say, look at the characteristics of the dog. And you quickly sometimes know why the dog is man's best friend.
Yep.
Sometimes they say when a man enters the home, the only thing that meets the man after a hard day's work is the dog. Yet there are 4 or 5 people living in the home.
Yep.
So I think it goes to support the point here. But coming back to the question that you can ask, I just wanted to, from the woman's perspective, right? Here we're talking about Christ is showing us the way to love, which we see the slide. You will see the person's weakness, own it, and see how you can bring the person using channels of love. But what are the other areas, where sometimes it is said that they use the word 2 denarius. The concept of 2 denarius was 2 days' wages that he gave. And he said, I'll be back. So there is a saying that out of sight, out of love, out of sight, out of mind. But the fact that he made that statement means that you will still be my business. Even though that I'm not here, you still be my business and I'll go the extra mile. How do we put that in the context of working on what we're doing? And then I think my dear can ask question.
So coming back to the issue of not concentrating on the wrongs. When you feel that someone is there for you, right? When you know that this person is there for me, you are willing to open up. You are willing to also reciprocate. Why does boys who are very, very troublesome, especially those who are very, very troublesome, and they themselves know I'm troublesome, they love their moms. They know I'm not good, but here's a woman who knows I'm not good, but will still fight for me, right? Will still care for me. He knows that I'm doing things that hurts my mom, but this woman will still keep on pursuing and keep on pursuing, because they know if there's no one, at least this woman will be there for me.
Not to cut you in, this is such a common story about people who have been in jail, were drug dealers.
Exactly.
I had a series recently, and this was the one line that runs through. My mother was there for me.
Yeah. And what did the mother? The mother knew they were doing things wrong.
Yes.
And the mother was telling them.
Yes.
When he comes home, the mother will give him food to eat, give him a place to sit, and they will still be talking to them. Sometimes they will go do it, they will come, and the mother will be crying. Why are you trying to bring my life down? They would say all the things that they want to say. Sometimes the son will even still revolt. But in them, they know this woman loves me. They are there for me. And that is what has to come in our relationships. As married. No matter what, I should be there for my spouse. Even if she did something wrong, my actions should know that she can rely on me.
Yes.
She knows I will be there for her. I will be defending her. I'll be protecting her. In every sense of the word. But if it is such that my wrongs, my wife is telling her brother, telling her sister, she's not defending me.
The shield.
She's not being there for me. She's not shielding me. She's not being there for me. And those little acts is telling your spouse that you're not there. You don't care. Something that my struggles that I have, we haven't agreed on it for you to share with your brother. Yes, you are free with your brother, but you can't share.
Yes.
Unless you give me, or I give you the right to
share.
They will feel that, no, you're not there for me, you're not protecting me, you don't have my interest at heart.
And they don't respect you either. They do not respect, because they kind of know everything about you, so you don't even gain their respect.
So that is just an example.
Yes.
So we're saying here, just like the Samaritan, he has shown that he is going to be there for this guy who has been beaten. Right? I'm going, I'll be back. The action, not only the words, the action behind all that was saying that I am there for you. And then come back to it. We do things wrong, and then we still come back to God, and He still has open arms. Yeah. Right? That is the standard He set for us. And not only our spouses, but even our children.
Children. Yes.
You know, when they know you are there for them. And I was sharing about this, I think it was, step daughter with stepfather, you know, because he showed that I am going to be there for you, even though I'm not your dad. And I know you are angry, you wish your real dad was there. But no matter what, I love you and I'll be there for you. And he showed it by action. We'll take her to her games. If she's going somewhere and she needs to be taken care of, the biological mom will not go. He, the man, will take the daughter. He had opportunity for daddy-daughter dance. And at some point she realized that this man is not giving up pursuing me. In spite of all the wrongs I do, all the things I told them. He told the stepdad, I hate you, I don't like you, and you're not my real dad. Don't ever think that you can be my dad. And he said, yeah, I understand. But know that no matter what, I'll be there for you. And that 16-year-old said those things could not get out of her mind. Because that's what he was doing. Exactly. You know. So, no matter what, now they are they are like this. Very, very close. There's nothing that she doesn't tell her stepdad. You know. So that is what persistent pursuing of love, showing love to someone who does not deserve. Right? That's how it changes. You know.
Interestingly,
the individual.
Not to cut you off, that is the story of President Gerald Ford. That's the story. The story that you said is the exact story. Yes. So, actually, along the way, he changed his name. The Ford was his stepfather's name.
Interesting.
He came to a place, so you can go and watch it actually. A lot of people don't know that. So where he himself said, I've got two fathers, but my real father is a Ford.
I mean, just look at this. This is how much God loves us.
Yes.
And you just said it. While we were yet sinners, He sent His only Son to come and die for us. So if, like in marriage, we go through that, we overlook all the wrongs, and despite everything, being there for our spouse, just like how God did for us. So we should always use God as
so the criteria,
our benchmark.
benchmark.
This is what we have to look up to for Christian marriages, and of course to have happy to marry happily.
Happily, yeah.
Yeah, because
Persistently showing that kind of love
Yes.
brings transformation. It will
It
always.
will
And
always.
that has what has bring transformation in all of
Yes.
us.
Yes.
Because of his love for
Yes.
us.
Mhm.
right.
Right. That's what has brought the transformation in all of us. Sincere love
Yeah.
will go after you, even with all your wrongs. Will go after you, but will not deny the wrongs you are doing. He doesn't deny the wrongs we're doing, but he still pursues us. And in our marriage, when that happens, with time, there will be a change.
Yes.
And that is why sorry about that. That's why Jesus's concepts are, it's always different from the normal
Yes.
conventional thinking. You hurt me, I hurt you. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, right?
Yes.
That's how we all think, and but his concepts are different, and his concepts also work.
So I think it's, and as we are bringing this to a close, we are making a point here. Jesus' principles about a good relationship is not what the world tells us.
That's right.
And it works. And the world actually is applying that. But there is no power for them to have it, because the power to do it comes from what? From
Holy
Christ.
Spirit, yeah.
But dwelling on these principles, because sometimes when you go through them, you feel as if you are being cheated. You came into the relationship.
Yeah.
It's my life is all about you, rather than what about me. But I have come to understand, I tell now all the time, there is no greater joy in life to make another person happy.
Yes.
Right.
But people will come there. They will not be there. They are not. Everybody is in different stages of getting there.
Yep. Yep.
But there is no greater joy in life than that. I tell a lot of people, I've got a lot of ties. I've got Hermes ties.
I see.
But I've got two of them, right? And when you say Hermes ties, that is a tie, right? But whenever 90% of my ties were given to be my residents, they went to buy it for me. My residents and my patients. And I always give the story of a young girl that joined our program. She wanted to go home, right? And she wanted to go home, and she was so disappointed. I took her and I said, look, you're going nowhere. You will finish. Because she had a diagnosis of a big diagnosis of cancer. And she was having a lot of problems. And she had planned to go and talk to the program director to go. And somebody told her to come to my office. And I said, come here. I brought her into my office and I said, let me just tell you this. You're going nowhere. The last thing that you would like to tell your daughter is because of you, I did not continue my program. Thank God, I told her, whenever you want to weep, come in here and weep. But you can weep, but you can't go. So, those were my words. I said, you can weep all you want, but you are not leaving this place. Fast forward 7 years after that, I went to Hershey Park. I was walking around and somebody embraced me from the back. And I turned around, this was my fellow, who is now a doctor in Pennsylvania. And the husband came to me and he said, this is the moment I've been waiting for. I wanted to meet you. Because she remembers clearly the day she had packed her things and wanted to leave. And how you always called her and told her, you can weep, but you can't leave. Right? So, I am what people need to understand is hard work. But if you put it in, right? I had another young girl who came to join our program. And I'm talking about this, that the people, that's what we're talking about, the fact that this concept is not only to marriage, in my opinion, but it's to everything, you know. And I had another young girl coming in, and at that time, she had come from another program, and everything was new to her. So I told her, okay, I've got you. I've just got you. You are going to stay here. And if you stay here, it's going to be good. So she stayed with us in our general cardiology. And she said she wants to do interventional. And interventional is very unusual. There are not many of them. So we started the process. And she almost gave up. And I said, I can tell you, nobody frustrates me like you. Because you are my biggest discourager. But because of my experience in the past, I'm not giving up on you. I want you to know you drive me nuts with sending me text messages telling me it's not going to work. But I'm not giving up on you. The process was supposed to get a selection. You're supposed to be getting by February. So when we got to March, she came to me and said, I told you. I said, is that new? This negative business about you. The beauty is the fact that she got a position in May. When it was almost all lost. And now, she is the director and the chief of interventional cardiology in another program. This young girl, her father went to Hermes to buy me 2 Hermes ties. So even from the secular world, right? I'm just talking about my residents, right? Even in outside marriage, it works. So inside marriage, I believe we should all come to that. People should know that the story, what you've been telling us, though we use the word story, it's really not what? A story. It's true.
True issues, yeah.
You know, so I wore one of my Hermes ties and I said, boy, you know this tie? This is a Hermes tie. It cost several thousands to wear this tie.
Yeah.
Actually, I did not even know. The first time they brought me the tie, right? They told me it's Hermes tie. I said, so what? I think the man realized I don't know.
You don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
No value, yeah, the value.
Right? It's the most expensive tie you can get around in the world. But it did not come from anything. So whenever I put one of them on, it always reminds me that hard sowing into people will bear the fruit.
And I think the word is sowing into people.
Sowing into people will bear the truth. And, you know, and I think we can end with this statement. You see, the statement that he said here is this: look after him, and when I return, I'll reimburse you for any extra expense. Somebody interpreted it as there are no limits to my love for you. He didn't say some of it. He said any extra expense. So, and my one thing that I've seen is this: if you are in a relationship, especially marriage, and you think there's an end date, the end date will come. But the understanding that if there is no end date and you're going to be it forever, you're going to work on it. They say that people who always have an end date, that end date will come.
Yeah.
But people who know, I don't know where to go. Either I get myself miserable or I work myself out of it. And those are the people who own it. So I will leave you guys to give us your last words, and then I think we can finish here.
I'll just start and then you can. I think everything that we've said today, the idea is that, one, it's a lot of work. We do not deny the fact that it's a lot of work. But if we put in the work that is needed, we will see the fruits. Simple as that. If we put in the work, and sometimes it may be the blood, the sweat, sometimes pursuing, not giving up. And if it's beyond you and you can't do anything about it, you seek help. So once we do all of this, we will get there. We will get there. But again, like I started, it's a work in progress. So we're always working on our marriage. We're always working on our relationship. And with God's help, we will do it because that's what He promised us.
Amen.
Amen. And I would just say that have the mind that you want to be there for your spouse in whatever condition, right? In whatever challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Making up your mind that I'll be there for my spouse, and whatever problem it is, we're going to face it together. And that being there, eventually you win the war. You know, there's always victory on the side. So anyone listening to this, your situation will be different, but never, never, never give up. But do the right thing. And there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you. And I guess it will be my honor to give my gorgeous wife the last word.
Oh, and you used it, gorgeous. We remembered.
Well, I will say that we should always mimic God's love and have Jesus at the center of our marriage. And in any situation, just look at what God has done for us and not look at the fact that we want to check the wrongs, but we should look at the fact that ready to overlook the wrongs and go ahead with the marriage. And like you said, since there really isn't any end, if you put an end to it, there will be an end. Because yesterday I was speaking to my friend, and it's like, marriage, you need to be, if you have decided to be in it, be in it.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So that is what I'll say. If you are in it, put Jesus at the center and look up to God's love. Use God's love as an example and mimic it.
Yes, my dear. At this point. God bless you very much for joining us. I think that there's been, I have learned a lot. And I want to, on behalf of myself, my gorgeous wife, and I want to thank you once again for coming to us in this powerful way. We believe that we have this God's rhythm over here. We'll continue to, even through the year, come to our viewers and then be able to bless them. But may the Lord bless you all, everybody. What you've heard, put it in action, because the difference is the action. And then if you do it, it works. God bless you all. See you again.